Intanto vorrei assolutamente ringraziare il festival che quest'anno ha chiesto una collaborazione assieme a Trart per invitare un fotografo. Mara e Stefano ci hanno chiamato e ci hanno proposto di portare qualcuno di particolare, qualche fotografo che conoscevamo che si occupa di fotografia artistica e di fotografia un po' più creativa rispetto a forse quello che siamo abituati dentro al festival, che è di documentario e reportage. So you are a photographer now. You have
Yeah.
been always a photographer.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Let us know a little bit where you started. Where did it start? Where it
It
began?
started.
We have a phrase here.
Okay, that is actually new phrase
Yeah.
ish. But this phrase was from when I was about 10 years old. I was walking in London with my parent or with my mother and my brother. And I don't know if you know the dandelion heads. It's a little flower that blows sometimes in the autumn, whatever. Anyway, so there was this dandelion head, and I saw a woman, a little figure inside this dandelion head. And I was so young, and I said to my mother, and I said, "Do you see that?" And all she saw was this dandelion. So this sort of showed me that I was always a little bit creative mentally. And I think after a time, after quite a few years, when I grew up and got older, and I moved to Spain, and then I got bored. I got absolutely bored, and I decided to move back to UK and went to art school. And so from art school, I studied sculpture. And later on, I started photographing my sculptures because they were so big and I couldn't move them. So the only way to record them was photograph them. And then I fell in love with the darkroom. So this is basically how I became a photographer. So after the art school, which was a 3-year course, then I did a bachelor's in photography in the arts, which was another 3 years. Then after that, I got involved in the catwalk photography of the year, which was run by the Independent newspaper in London, and came.
Maybe you can tell us
Second.
something about this.
Oh, the pig! Right.
Yeah.
This was.
This you tell me was one of your first.
Yeah, this
work.
was actually one of my first hand prints. It's obviously color, but when I photographed this, I was in Spain, and my parents had this freezer in the garden, and it broke down. So I don't know why, but I went out. I went to the supermarket, bought a pig's head, came back, put it inside the freezer, photographed it, and thought, okay, it's quite nice, but I wasn't really happy. So then I put some fish hooks in the ears to suspend the pig in this freezer. And I don't know why. I really don't know why I did this. It just something that came to me that morning. A few months later, my professor at university, she said, "Are you claustrophobic?" I said, "Yeah." "Do you eat meat?" I said, "No." Okay. So she actually read so many things in this print about the pig's head, which I photographed and printed, and she read, knew a little bit about me from this. So this was actually my first major photograph, which I'm very pleased about because it's a little bit disturbing because it's smiling, and I printed its pastel colors. Well, I did this. I print through tissue paper. So I actually phoned Kleenex, the company, and I called them and said, "Can I have a meter of tissue paper?" And they sent me a meter of tissue paper. So I actually printed this very, very big. And this was, my first piece of work which went in an exhibition in 1994.
This was before the catwalk.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Before your commercial
catwalk.
work.
Yeah, before commercial.
During the university.
Yeah.
So then maybe you started your career with the commercial works.
After I did catwalk for 4 years, hated it. It's not photography. It's just, I don't know, can't explain. But then I ended up working for magazines, doing portraiture and some fashion. And during my time in London, it's very difficult because there's so many photographers. But I eventually moved to Asia because my partner at the time was Malaysian. And when I moved to Malaysia, I got so much work, really so much work. I think I was new, fresh blood in Kuala Lumpur. And so, I just got work with Mary Claire Harper's and all these other magazines. And I just did this for well, I was there for 18 years, so I worked probably 10 years as a fashion portraits photographer, and sometimes some dodgy commercial rubbish.
So all these commercial, I guess, it started your career,
Yeah.
and then you landed to your current photography. That actually, for me, is your photography is what I like to call photographer like you is like artists that use photography as a medium to express themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Because usually we are used to have this kind of photography or the beautiful photographers that we have on the wall here, that they tell immediately a story.
Yeah.
They document something. You have something different because as other photographers that we exhibit in our gallery, you work with photography, but you use photography to get something different.
Yeah.
So here we have your new works, your new style that arrived after your commercial.
Yeah. When I was doing a portraiture shoot of an architect in Malaysia, she was the boss of the second biggest architectural company. So one day we were having dinner because I was photographing with the film camera, and she said, "You're not earning any money from this." I said, "No, I'm not, because no one pays the cost of film anymore." So we was talking over dinner, and we said about the photography in Malaysia was pretty crap. So something needs to be done because in Asia it's very digitalized. Once digital cameras came in, that was the end of photography. Really, it's really so bad. So we decided to start a photography gallery, film photography gallery. So we renovated a house. Took about 7 months, and then we decided, okay, let's open it up. And I had a book published, which was absolutely, again, crap. So it was an opening with the gallery, my book launch and exhibition, and it's like me as a photographer, film photographer. And so then we started from there, and then I started teaching newbies, people who just wanted to learn photography, the darkroom printing, how to use cameras, different formats. And then we worked with projects, and every time we wanted to have an exhibition, we'd think of a project, we all get together and say, okay, look, what are we going to do this time? Sometimes it's documentary, sometimes it's still life. So it's very, very, very broad. And this photograph is called Inhabitants of Fairyland, which was one of the first photographs I hand painted. So this isn't a color photograph.
Actually, before to explain your photograph, I would like to show the video you sent me, because it explains how you work actually, and how long and complicated is the way of thinking. It's just 3 minutes video, but I think it can explain better than word what's. Ecco, allora questo è un video che a me piaceva farvi vedere perché rappresenta un po', fa vedere qual è il processo creativo e anche manuale che ha Paul Gadd durante la costruzione delle sue opere, perché ogni stampa io la definisco unica, anche se ci sono delle serie in edizione limitata, perché ogni stampa è lavorata a mano e lavorata come se fosse un dipinto o una scultura. So this is your house in Malaysia. This is your studio in Malaysia, and here you created these works that are fully analog,
Yeah,
and everything is made by hand.
yeah, yeah.
Is this a techniques that you produce I mean, you learn step by step in the years?
No, not really. As I said, when I have the students and we're all working together, we all work from each other. It's not just me teaching. It's you know, we all feed off each other. So it doesn't matter if they're beginners or if they're more advanced. You know, every time we do something, we just figure out some new stuff. And photography is experimental. You know, if you work like this, it's all experimental. It's unlike this, you know, here you get photographs that is at the moment. My photography is very different. Some photographs take 2 years. I've got one photograph which is actually was cooking for 3 years. It was the chemicals were not washed, but they kept working over the years. And one day I unrolled this print, and it's gorgeous. All the tones changed to blues, and there's a silvering of the print. It's absolutely amazing. So that was a complete fluke, but it worked. But yeah, we just feed off each other. But when I work with, like for this print, we was having Sunday barbecue in the studio. And one of my students, she asked me, she wanted to see how I work. So I put this thing together. I had a bouquet of flowers from an exhibition. And I keep a lot of dead things in my freezer. So I just got this bouquet, put this backdrop is actually zinc metal. So it's been rotting for the past 7 years. So I used the zinc metal. The fruit is from the garden. Everything in this photograph is from the garden. Even the lizard from before was from the garden. And I just put this bouquet of flowers and I photographed it. Then I added the fruit and photographed it. Then I added the butterflies and the bugs. There's frogs in there. There's some cicadas. There's mantis. And yeah, I just put it all together. And my friend just said, "God, you shit that out of your ass." So yeah, that means I did that. I was very lucky. Anyway, so yeah.
That's how the art comes. I mean, during a barbecue.
And wine.
And wine, of course.
And wine.
So this is part of one of your big cycle that is called Inhabitants of Fairyland. Yeah. What is about Inhabitants?
Basically, this start, you know, I use the name Inhabitants of Fairyland because of going back from when I was a kid, the image I saw of this woman inside a dandelion head. So it just reminded me of, I don't know, it just reminded me of that. That's why I used the fairyland. But also, because I don't, you know, I'm a vegetarian, so I love animals. And every time my dog, this was collected by my dog, this lizard. So, and I was obviously very peeved. But every time I find a dead animal, I would photograph it and I would do something and I would bury it and I'd say thank you very much. So it's sort of I want to try to create an afterlife for these animals, which they ended a bit too quickly.
It works.
It does
now
work, right?
they are immortal.
Yeah.
This is still
Civet. This is Civet in Fairyland.
Civet in
This is the
Fairyland.
second one, the second shot after the last Inhabitants of Fairyland. Again, it's a landscape of a civet cat, which was caught by my dog. And all the fruit is from the garden, the star fruit, the pomegranate.
I can see all this picture together. It's like having a walk in your garden in your mind.
Yeah, it was.
actually.
It's,
That takes all these animals, flowers, and they create a real new world
yeah.
inside this. This is from the
I
other
know
one.
it's a new project.
This is the new project,
Yeah,
right?
it's a new project.
And this is actually a project that you worked with almost an intention to criticize the world now.
Yeah, it's all the flowers here are from the cemetery in South Korea in Seoul. Seoul, South Korea. And
The project is called Landfill.
Landfill, yeah. So Project Landfill. So what this is about is the environment, basically, because South Koreans put plastic flowers on graveyards. There's no real flowers. You just go there, it's just plastic hell. It's absolutely horrible. And I went to this cemetery and there was this huge wall of fake flowers, but it's beautiful. It was absolutely amazing that these hundreds or thousands of fake flowers are put into this stone wall. And I wanted to replicate it, so I did, and I built this huge wall. I took the flowers from the cemetery. I didn't steal from the graves, I took from the trash cans. And I created this. And so when I photographed it, I used the butterflies. And this bird here actually flew into my window in South Korea, so I didn't kill it. And but when I was photographing, it wasn't enough. So I thought, because it's landfill, it's in the cemetery. So I started making casts of people with their hands, their heads, and their breasts. So then, yeah, obviously, this one is hand painted. And also, every time I work, all the negatives are scratched. I scratch the negatives and I bleach the prints. I paint. So everyone's an original. There's no replica. Although there's editions most of the time, but they're all different. Everyone.
And then we can talk maybe another big project you have is a State of Mind. I find this project more introspective of you. It looks like it talks more about your feeling, and it's something really strong.
Yeah. Okay.
That's something.
Well, the name State of Mind was the first photograph of this project was, or intentionally for this project, was a bird stuck in a bird's nest full of feathers. And it basically said how my brain was working at the time, because I was very anxious, so I had really fuzzy head. And so I thought it was a good title for an exhibition. And yeah, that's how it stuck. But State of Mind is basically things that pee me off or makes me feel emotional, then I will create a photograph to use for that moment. And for this one, Woman with Horns is basically a bad relationship. It's not a bad relationship with a person, it was a bad relationship with a country. I fell out of love of Malaysia, because it's very political, it's very religious, it's a pain in the ass. So yeah, this is about me in Malaysia.
Also, this is you have a nice story behind it.
Okay, this is, I get a lot of...
You can talk about this in Italy. I think you don't get problems.
Okay, right. I get a lot of shit for this photograph. Black Bohemia is basically about the political problems in Hong Kong and China. So I saw this, I read this article about this kid. She was being kidnapped in the airport. And she was walking in the airport and she did the sign 110, which was the emergency number in China. So some lady, she noticed this and she called security and saved the kid. So this is about Hong Kong and China. This is like Hong Kong saying, save me from China. And yeah, I get a lot of rubbish from this. Some people, they threaten me and whatever. That's photography.
Yeah.
Well, that's art.
This is
creation of misogyny. South Korea is a very misogynistic country. And they create like the painting creation of Adam with the two fingers touching. So this is how I wanted to create a creation of misogyny, because South Koreans, men, of course, and the government, they see women as pieces, just meat. So this was that photograph. Yeah, good.
Okay.
Going bananas.
This is something also very nice. Actually, I love this series. It is very, in its simplicity, it's so beautiful that it makes you fell in love with each of these frames. How did this start?
The project is called Going Bananas. It literally was about going bananas, but it was during COVID, actually just before COVID. I was meant to be showing in Saatchi Art in London, and my flight got cancelled, the art fair got cancelled, and so I got stuck in Malaysia in my gallery for 5 months, and all I could do is photograph. Luckily I got my darkroom, I had my dogs, and I could just photograph these banana flowers because I had a lot of banana trees, and I could just photograph them, and I just literally every day photograph banana flowers. So for this, I have about 100 plus bananas or banana flowers. So I photographed them during the stages of growth from beginning to the end, and it felt like, you know, like the COVID moment where everyone was stuck. So this is why I call it going bananas. But this print, sorry,
No.
this print is actually 25 banana flowers printed on one piece of paper. So this took 5.5 hours to print. I had to change the negative, print, and move on. And one time I actually did a wrong time for one of the flowers, and they ended up underexposed. So after 5.5 hours of doing this, developed, and it was useless.
Yeah, working with analog is the good and bad. I mean, you have the satisfaction, and also it's beautiful to handle a silver print, but of course you can go to these problems sometimes. Yeah, this is one.
Yeah, these are the
flowers.
So when I printed these, originally they were square format, but I quite liked them, and I like the tone. So I used 2 toners for this, and instead of scratching the negative like I normally do, as I only shot 1 image per banana flower, I just scratched acetate plastic on top, which gives some, so everyone's different, and also the edges are all different. Every single banana flower had a different mask. So yeah.
Okay, since this is actually the festival, Urban is very, it talks a lot about documentary photography. I would like, before maybe if someone have question before, I would like to show some of your documentary project. Okay. Also, actually these are documentary projects, but I still see your heart in this, and also they are analog, so there is a big work on this. This is 48.
Yeah.
What is 48?
48 is a project me and the students did. There's about 9 of us, and we spent 48 hours awake shooting one area in Kuala Lumpur. So it was hell. It was really hard work. And I said to everyone, whatever you do, don't drink. And literally half an hour when we arrived, we started drinking beer. So it's a disaster. We had 48 hours of this. So we all chose different parts. I chose the homeless and the mentally ill and the prostitutes. And I loved it. I loved the project. I just walked around with my camera and with a flash and just flashed everything and printed very high contrast. But it was really good fun. It was, you know, it's enjoyable. This girl is a transgender showgirl. And so I was allowed into one of the clubs who was performing, and I managed to shoot. This lady, unfortunately, she's a prostitute. Very sad. She was the cheapest one. I had to pay for all this. It is so expensive. But she was the cheapest one, and she was the only one who was an actual lady. It was really, really sad, and she just had this dead face. She was just whatever. It was really, really sad. She died. This is one of the things I don't like about Malaysia. She's a Muslim transgender, or was a Muslim transgender. When she died, her parents, obviously a Muslim, they actually took off her boobs and buried her. It was just so bad, really, really shocking. He was a Turkish ring seller.
In 48 hours you met.
Yeah, I met so many people, really. It was a good shoot. I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
These were all taken with flash.
Yeah. This girl, this girl here, she was homeless, and I used to watch her walking up and down because I saw her for 2 days. And she just sat down in a restaurant or street stall, should I say, and I went up to her. I just took 2 pictures and sat with her, and she just started talking to me in gibberish. It was so sad. But anyway, but this print got published in Time Out. And then after it got published, her doctor called me and said, I thought she was dead. So this was, it was good news for her, or for him, I guess. But yeah, street sellers.
And yeah, and another big project that you have, it was working on market.
Yeah, market is probably the best projects I and the students worked with. And in Malaysia, you have a lot of wet markets. You've got Penang, you've got Kuala Lumpur, you've got Ipoh. And we started photographing this market called Pudu. And it's sort of, I think, east, west, I don't know, some part of Kuala Lumpur. And it's very rough. It's very rough. There's a lot of prostitution, there's a lot of triads, there's a lot of everything, and obviously the homeless. And so we spent, I think, 3 or 4 months photographing this, walking around, before we managed to have an exhibition. So over the years, I've been photographing a lot of markets. So I've gone to Tsukiji before it closed down in Japan, and in South Korea I still go to the markets. I was in the market about 2 weeks ago in South Korea. And yeah, it's a great project, and I do want to do a book eventually of this, but I haven't finished. Although I've been shooting markets for 14 years.
Stefano, he wants to make a book.
Where is he?
Where is that?
Yeah, he's drinking wine, I think.
Probably.
Yeah.
Oh, these are analog.
Yeah, it's all analog.
Now you only work in analog.
Yeah, I quit commercial.
Yeah, now you quit commercial.
I quit commercial. Whether it's a good thing, I don't know.
And also now you're teaching photography?
Yeah.
In your studio in...
yeah, during COVID, after I went to South Korea, then my business partner, she became lesbian all of a sudden. And her partner hated me because I was running the studio, and I met her partner a long time, and she wanted the studio. So when I got to Korea, I got a text message: "I need all your stuff moved out." Anyway, so my friends, they had to go and pack everything, blah blah, and shipped it all to South Korea. Then I spent 2 years building a new darkroom in Korea, and so now I teach photography. It's exactly the same. Unfortunately, I don't have a garden. I don't have the dogs. But it's getting there. It's not bad. But the projects now I'm trying to work on is my own personal stuff. The student stuff is it's very few and far between, but it's enjoyable.
Since we set up this collaboration with you, calling it the collectible shot.
Mm-mm.
What do you think it is the relationship with photography and galleries or art market now?
It's difficult. It's very difficult. Photography is really difficult. One of my Sachi ladies, she said to me, "Mark your work as paintings, not as photography." Just having the title as a painting, it's easier to sell than a photograph. It's a bit stupid, but unfortunately this is how it is. And people see photography as something you can just click, print, done. You know, it's not like that. It's definitely not like that. It takes a lot of work. You know, even street photographers, they spend hours and hours on their feet all day, weeks. Yeah. So I spend hours and hours and weeks all day in printing one print until it's done. But
and do you see an interest from collectors to analog print?
yeah, definitely.
The different for digital print.
Yeah, there's obviously people who think, I don't, digital photography, I do shoot digital for when I was a commercial photographer, but shooting film, I think buyers are more drawn towards analog photography purely because they know the process. It's not just about, use a printer, but I know a lot of photographers who shoot analog and they just rather print with a Epson printer. I just don't want to do that. And the thing about analog, you can see, you cannot replicate each photograph. Even if you set the enlarger to exactly the same time, it's still going to be different each time. But when you print digital, it's going to be exactly the same pixels. It's not about the grain. This is a photograph that took 3 years. So that's why the colors are so strong, the turquoise. And basically, I didn't wash it properly because I hated it. I didn't like the drips from the selenium toner. But after the few years, the turquoises, the silver in. This is now my most expensive print.
In terms of styles.
Yeah. I did a portfolio review in South Korea recently, and some of the students, it's quite weird, but because in South Korea they do have some very good art schools, but so these kids came with the photography projects, and also the teachers are trying to promote the AI. And the AI photography is awful. It's absolutely awful. It's not even there. It's like someone's on acid. It really is. So it's going to be a good few years before it does anything. But when I was shooting analog before digital, then digital came in, and I saw the transition of how people and how photographers changed from analog to digital, purely to make money because it's easy. But I'd much prefer to spend hours in the darkroom than in front of a screen doing filters. So I don't think the AI is going to get there yet.
No, it's not anymore about analog or digital. It's about photography and artificial intelligence.
Ancora Paul.
Grazie Paul. Grazie Giacomo.